And the big development at this time is that Russian forces are reported to be moving into Ukraine's capital city of Kyiv. It's a city under siege. The Ukraine army says that fighting Russian forces outside the capital of Kyiv. It's fighting the Russian forces outside the capital. Ukraine says the Iron Curtain will fall in 96 hours, Akshita.
And it's not just in Kyiv. In parts like Kherson, which is in southern Ukraine, an alarm siren has been sounded. Authorities right now in some cities of Ukraine are urging civilians to move out of their homes, to hide in bomb shelters. So things going right now on the ground from bad to worse. And Russian troops, we understand, are advancing closer and closer to Kyiv, with the Ukrainian president also confirming now that there are some what he called a sabotage group shift who've entered already into Kyiv.
That's right. We've got a confirmation from our reporters on the ground, from Rajesh Pawar to Jan Husar, who say that it is possible that special forces of the Russian military have, who aren't in uniform, they're in civilian clothes to blend in with the population, have possibly infiltrated Kyiv at this point of time. And remember, these are claims being made. None of this is confirmed. Possibly infiltrated Kyiv, for sabotage operations to take over high-value facilities, important facilities, communication hubs, military sites and things like that. And Kyiv is surrounded by several different military installations. So it's possible that while a large-scale Russian influx of troops and weaponry hasn't happened in Kyiv just yet, they are on the outskirts of the city. In a moment, we'll show you, images, satellite images capturing a depth area deployment by Russia, which suggests that there could be an even larger thrust by the country in the coming hours and days. But things are moving very, very rapidly, with the Ukrainian president now saying in 96 hours, if the world does not intervene, then the Iron Curtain is going to fall and Ukraine, in effect, comes under the bear claw of the Russian Federation.
Right, and even as we're tracking all the latest that's coming in from Kyiv, Shift, run us through, these images, because it tells a horrifying tale, really, of what's playing out right now in Kyiv and how things have changed in a matter of hours in the capital, which is why in all those reports, Shiv, that our reporters on the ground have been getting us, streets are deserted, completely empty.
For the people of Kyiv, Akshita, these images are only still sinking in. For those of us who've been covering the Ukraine conflict only for the last few days and weeks, even for us, it's difficult to digest to see the city of Kyiv, which we've seen as any other modern European city, to be reduced to rubble in some centers of the kind that you're looking at on your screens right now. The image on your left, is what happened overnight before sunrise. There apparently was some kind of an air intrusion. Ukraine's air defense systems got activated. They claim that a Russian aircraft was shot down. There's no way to verify that claim, but the damage on the ground does not lie. Take a look at the damage and the aftermath of what appears to have been either an aircraft being shot down or a missile attack on the top of that building. These are the images of the aftermath of that blast. And images don't lie. There's a lot of crossfire, Akshita. Claims, counterclaims. We did this, we did that. We brought this down. We killed 800 of you. Those are things that are shrouded in the fog of war. What is not shrouded in the fog of war are images of this kind.
And we here at India Today are getting our viewers first-hand accounts of what's playing out right now in Kyiv. Even as we're putting out those images of the kind of devastation and destruction in a matter of hours, I want to take this across now to Maria Pysarenko. She's joining us from Kyiv. Maria, you're in a bomb shelter right now. Show us what it's like inside. Are most residents now moving to these kind of shelters?
I'm Maria Pysarenko reporting live from Kyiv, Ukraine, and now we are in bomb shelter beneath one of the residential houses in the city center, in the governmental quarters of Kyiv. The situation is the following. From 4 o'clock in the morning, there were attacks of Russian aircrafts on the civilians in Kyiv, and since then we here in the city center can hear a lot of far away sounds of explosions. The official reports say that this is air force defense systems are working, so don't be afraid, but please keep sitting in the bomb shells. So now I will give you a little tour, so to say excursion, in this bomb shelter and show how everything is done here. So we can go further and see how people are doing here. So there are small mattresses on improvised chairs, also food put here, and people have been sitting here from 5 o'clock in the morning, right after these loud explosions have been heard in the city center. So not all of them really want to talk or show their faces, because the situation now is really tense and everybody understands that the worst probably is yet to come, because the reports are very disturbing about the group of Russian military dressed as Ukrainian military trying to get into the city center. So the mood here is not really pleasant, and I won't show the faces of people, just I will show how the stuff is organized. So there are like shelves where we put, for example, our belongings or backpacks with food and some additional supplies that we need. We are lucky because this bomb shelter is one which is in pretty nice condition, so there is even kind of improvised fridge for food, and I guess it all goes from the times of Soviet Union, because there is some letters are also kind of like written in the font which was used in the Soviet Union. So this is the one room. People are sitting here and they're also sleeping. And here is another room. You can see again these filters for the air here, and the conditions are not great, but some people have been sleeping here for the night, because other people from Kyiv in Kyiv are using metro stations as bomb shelters, and some of them use bomb shelters if they really have these bunkers beneath their houses. So what else can I show you? The situation here is really pretty tense, because people are not only upset, but they are shocked by what is happening here in Kyiv. The understanding that the war is on is still not the case for many of us sitting here in the bomb shelter, and a lot of people understand that they're just, wasting their time because some person decided that Kyiv should be attacked, that Ukraine should be attacked. So from time to time we have the opportunity to leave the shelter, to stand outside, to breathe some air, for example, and also to listen to some situation in the air, so we can, standing here, hear the distant sounds of explosions going far behind. So, and people are coming here in the bomb shelter more and more during this morning. So it's now only 9 o'clock Kyiv time, and more people are really coming to stay here, to sit in the bomb shelter, and to spend this very worrying time. So you see, from time to time they come, they leave. We can hear the sound of air alarm going also from time to time, and people are leaving, then returning, then again leaving. So, and right now as we speak, you can hear the sounds of explosions. So that's the situation, and so you see people are talking now that everybody is alarmed, and the police outside the street is also alarmed about the situation with a group of Russians dressed as Ukrainian military. So the situation really doesn't get any better, and we are still advised to keep sitting here in this bomb shelter and waiting. The waiting is the only thing we can do now. So that's that for the report from the bomb shelter. I'm Maria Pasarenko reporting live from Kyiv about Russian invasion happening right now in the center of Europe.
Okay, so that is Maria's report, very elaborate report that shows you what these bomb shelters look like. From what she showed us, it's almost like bunker beds have been put up. Many of the people they're sitting there, they brought their own provisions. They brought their own food and water from home because of the fact that nobody's really providing it to them at this point. Remember that there's no evacuation order either. I also want to play out this conversation shift that you had with Jan Huzar. This is from outside, from literally the heart of Kyiv.
On the roads, it's not that safe as usually it is. So people who are driving in Kiev, they have to be super careful because some of the people here are super speeding. Like you don't see it here normally because they will get stopped by the police. But now the police is not dealing with reckless driving; it's dealing with the security situation. So I think slowly it will become a big problem in the coming days.
It's going to become a problem in the coming days. Kiev is under siege. Russian forces are, a few kilometers away, not very far from where Jan is actually reporting from right now. I am guessing that the air raid shelters and the bomb shelters at this time, Jan, are probably full of citizens and full of people right now.
Yes, they are. I mean, the people on the street that are mostly soldiers, as you can see, I'm standing here. There is a military vehicle parked on the road, and you can see more and more of this happening in all around Kiev, especially downtown. I mean, this where I'm standing, it's super busy street. This is not something you can see some traffic, but if you see the traffic that is here normally, that it will amaze you. It's like in New York, like in downtown New York. There's car on car. There is rush hours. And now you just 1, 2, 3 cars are on this main road that is coming all through the downtown of Kiev. There are some guys here, but it's 2 people. But imagine, this is expensive part of the city where there are shops, hotels, and literally, let me just switch the image. And as you can see, a big road that is going all through Kiev, and it's empty. These cars here are parked in front of the hotel. So those are hotel guests, but nowhere, no people, nowhere. You don't see. Just few cars. Really, this is maybe if you came here 2 in the morning on Monday, this is how many cars you will see. But you don't see this in the middle or in the morning over rush hour where people should be going to work. I suppose today nobody went to work, and there are problems with groceries. We were talking about that earlier. And we are also considering to buy some storages for ourselves because we might get stuck in Kiev for the next weeks. We don't know. We want to stay and report more, and hopefully we'll do that.
Maria Pasarenko, India Today's reporter on the ground in Kiev, that's under siege at this time, joins me live once again. Maria, we just showed the world your report from inside that bomb shelter. Everyone is talking about it. Everyone is wondering, about what life is going to be like and whether that's the new reality facing many Ukrainians. The possibility of having to leave the comfort of their homes and spend the next many days perhaps inside bomb shelters. Is that the general sense among people in Ukraine and around you right now?
People are really worried now and ready to spend some time in bomb shells or in metro stations. Yes, that's true. But as far as I've heard from them, nobody believes that it would be for long. So people think that several days will take all the situation to be resolved, and later they could go back to their usual daily life. So this is are the things the stuff I'm hearing from people with whom we are sitting now in bombshell, my neighbors and people who work also in the nearest buildings. And I guess also the main topic now is reading news. Everybody is sitting in their phones and scrolling their news feed. And the latest update is that this sabotage group of Russian military entered Kyiv from Hostomel, and they were dressed as Ukrainian military. They captured the Ukrainian vehicle with Ukrainian plates, so they tried to, cover themselves as Ukrainians and bringing with them a number of other military equipment with them. But luckily, there was a report just minutes before I went live that this sabotage group was destroyed, was neutralized, not in the city center, but further, so they didn't have a chance to to penetrate the city. And luckily, everybody here just can breathe a little and feel that at least one good news for today is already received. For now, we are still staying here in bomb shelter. I've just walked out of there for the report, for going live, because when we go in the streets, the military who are in the street, Ukrainian military, ask us to stay, to get back to the shelters, not to leave to the streets, because any moment, any provocation can happen there and Russians can appear in the streets, so they are ready to repel the attack. They are standing with machine guns, in camouflage uniforms, so you feel safe with Ukrainian army, but you understand that the reason they are there is that the threat is really very high today in Kyiv, and also the sounds of explosions are going all the day, and now it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I feel like this day have been already going for so long, since 4 o'clock a.m. when the first strike was heard over the city. So that's the situation now.
I can only imagine this day must be feeling like the longest in your life, Maria. Just stay on with us, because we're getting in some big breaking news of a fresh advisory that's been issued by India for those nationals who are stuck in Ukraine, Shiv.
That's right. India is planning to evacuate its nationals who are stranded in Ukraine via the land route from Romania and Hungary. Students in Ukraine have been asked to go to checkpoints on the land borders with Romania, Hungary, Poland, Slovakia in an organized manner. This is the latest statement from India's embassy in Budapest. That's the capital of the Republic of Hungary, one of the countries that shares a land border with Ukraine. The embassy of India the Indian embassy in Budapest has now been activated to start receiving Indian nationals from across the land border with Ukraine, and from there they will be flown back to India from Budapest. So the advisory that's been issued now is for the students to organize themselves as quickly as possible at the checkpost crossing over from Ukraine to Hungary.
That's right. For all the Indian nationals stuck in Ukraine watching this broadcast, for all the families out there worried about your loved ones in Ukraine, read this advisory carefully that we're putting out here on our screens. India has made it very clear that students who are stuck right now, any Indian national, must go to checkpoints along the borders in an organized manner, evacuate essentially via Romania, Hungary. The External Affairs Ministry has been working day in and day out now to figure out a way to evacuate about 16,000 Indian nationals who are stuck in Ukraine. This is the latest statement that's come in. Helpline numbers also that have been put out, Shiv, for all those who want to know how to make their way to these border posts.
There are 16,000 Indian nationals who study and work in Ukraine at this point of time. So this is the next big phase of India's international evacuation. The Indian diaspora is a large community, 16,000 Indians in Ukraine. You know, how many of us actually knew that so many thousands of our fellow citizens live and work in the Ukraine? But that's a fact. This is a big country. We've got a huge population, 16,000, not such a big number, but a big number when you need to rescue all of them and bring them out from a country that's currently at war. As Akshita said, all those numbers will be on your screen. Anxious parents, you can keep watching India Today. We will connect you to the correct information as soon as we receive it. You will always have authentic information here on India Today.
That's right. We are going to continue, of course, putting out all the information you need to know about who to reach out to, what's the plan of action from the government. But remember that the reason that the Indian government is focusing so much right now on ensuring the earliest possible help to the 16,000 odd Indian nationals who are stuck in Ukraine is because of how things are progressing so fast from bad to worse right now in places even like the capital city of Kyiv. And that's what I want to get you the latest images of what's playing out in Kyiv from 4 a.m. this morning. People there haven't slept a wink because from 4 a.m. they've been hearing the sounds of bombing, of explosions all around them. Since then, it's about 10 a.m. roughly now in Kyiv. Since then, many of them have chosen to move to safe houses, to bomb shelters, to metro stations. Because see those images on your screens of the explosions that took off and the aftermath also of these attacks in the heart of Kyiv. The entire city now looks like a ghost town. All our reporters on the ground have been showing us how there isn't a single soul on the roads right now. And mind you, this is the capital of Ukraine. Now, the Ukraine government is also saying at this point that there are some Russian sabotage groups who have managed to enter. These attacks by Russia being carried out by cruise or ballistic missiles. Ukraine claims they've even shot down a Russian aircraft. But right now, we can only do a he said, she said. The authentic information, what exactly transpired, very difficult to really make out of. But what we can do is put out those images of what played out from 4 a.m. this morning shift. Clearly, Russia has a strategy in place to capture Kyiv. They want to do it today itself.
They want to do it today itself. Kyiv in many ways has already been paralyzed by the full force of what Russia has brought to bear, whether it is via aircraft, whether it is via special forces, whether it is via these standoff fire assaults that we're seeing captured in these extremely dramatic images. All of it means that Kyiv is far from the city it was just 24 hours ago. And I want to show you and make sense for you, the viewer, of where all these attacks are actually coming from. Let me just show you. The attacks are coming from different directions, and Kharkiv is not the only site of attacks. Let's show you where many things are at this point of time. If you can, okay, let me just show it to our viewers so they have a sense of it. Okay, here's Russia's attack plan. Apologies for that. Kyiv is the site of the main attack. That's the capital city. It's where all the infrastructure is, and that's where the main attack is taking place. There are many key facilities in Kyiv, and those are reportedly being taken over by Russian special forces and saboteurs, but that's a claim being made by the Ukrainian government. Then is the port city of Odessa, very famous port city of Odessa. Apparently there are troops and firing taking place over there as well. They're moving also to the place called Kherson via the Crimean Peninsula. That's another entry point via the sea route into Ukraine. Then you've got the Kharkiv area where India Today has been reporting from for the last couple of weeks. That's another entry point from Russia, where troops have been moving in. There have been images of shelling. There have been images of tanks and armored vehicles moving in some of these places. Donetsk, which is part of the one part of the rebel-held territory to the east, which has been declared independent by Russia. At least a small part of it has been declared independent by Russia, is also one of the entry points. Large masses of Russian forces have been massing in these areas. So this is a 360-degree view, Akshita, for our viewers of where all those attacks are actually coming from, and they're from multiple places. A
very, very insightful map there that you've broken down in great detail, Shiv, of exactly how Russia is coordinating its attacks from different directions to go ahead and lay siege there to Kyiv. And Ukraine right now is also trying to ensure that they put up a strong fight. I just want to play out also a conversation that Shiv had just moments ago with Ukrainian MP Sofia Fedina. And the conversation, Sofia details exactly where she is. She's also sent out a very, very strong message to the entire world watching this broadcast of what's happening currently in Ukraine and what kind of help they need.
I would say that officially Russian forces had not entered the city. We know about some groups that entered the city, but I think that every man or every woman in our city, including the members of the parliament, are going to do everything to neutralize them, or better to say, to kill all those who came to kill Ukrainians. These are diversion groups that are aimed to make different troubles. But if we talk about the army columns, there are no army columns in Kyiv. We know about the tank column and another technique that is several dozens kilometers from Kyiv. But now our army is trying to fight them. As well, I've heard that you were talking about this big airport in which they want to settle the airborne forces. I would like to inform that this airport is not existing anymore. During the fights, the coverage of the line was totally destroyed. So it is not impossible to any Moscow plane to land at that point. And that was one of the tasks of the Ukrainian army. In Kyiv right now, I'm almost in a bomb shelter. Therefore, in any minute, I can switch off. A few minutes ago, we've heard a heavy shelling, a heavy sound, kind of bombing. But at the moment, we hope that this Ukrainian anti-aircraft system was working. As we know, at 4 a.m. in the morning, there was attack over Kyiv, but our anti-aircraft system protected Kyiv citizens, and this Moscovian aircraft was destroyed. Also, we know that several cities and towns that yesterday were taken over by Moscow Federation, they even managed to put Moscow flags over there. They were liberated by Ukrainian army. I may say that yesterday it was a big first shock about the scale of attack, especially on military airports and military storages. But now our army is getting ready. And of course, I would say yesterday, I was shocked with the number of people first who came to sign a contract to territorial defense forces, and they got weapon immediately, and not only automatic weapon, but much more important stuff to kill the enemy. But also I was shocked with the number of people who came to give their blood to the hospitals, as we have quite many wounded people right now. And that is one of my requests to you as a friendly country, the country that cares, and the country whose pharmacy is on the highest top level. We would need a lot of medicine, a lot of blood clots, a lot of blood stopping stuff, a lot of antibiotics to save our soldiers and civilians who today protect Ukraine. I know that from many countries of the world, already we get humanitarian aid, and they are already approaching Ukrainian border, especially from the Polish side. Also, I would like having a possibility to thank all those people who came to Moscow embassies and who protested against Moscow invasion in Ukraine. We have to understand that Ukraine needs not only weapon support, not only solidarity in this defense war, but also we need psychological warfare against Moscow Federation. And we need also to punish aggressor, because if several years ago it was on the world level kind of a discussion who is guilty, who belongs to him, now we definitely see that Moscow army as an enemy invaded Ukraine, invaded from all the sides, and like the worst possible terrorists, they are killing peaceful Ukrainians who want just to live on their own land. I know that India knows what is the fight for independence. And I ask all the Indian politicians not to count on some kind of Moscow interest, but to take into account the necessity to protect human rights, peace, and sovereignty of democratic countries. We really count on you.
Truly an eye-opening conversation, that one with Sofia. We'll keep getting you highlights of the conversation that Shiv had with the Ukraine MP there. Here on India Today, we're attempting to give you details of what's playing out across Ukraine currently.